Okay, Les Arnott here again, and we'll be looking at this image of this gymnast, and what we're going to be doing with this is extracting it from the background and eventually put it into this image and do a few effects on that. So first of all, the best way to extract this, so let's try, first of all we'll go to the layers, we'll duplicate the layer, click on OK, so it's a right click, duplicate layer, and then we'll try to go to select and subject. So this will look for the subject, and using artificial intelligence it will try and select what it thinks is the correct part of the image. Okay, so it's made a selection, doesn't look too bad, so let's just double click on the zoom tool and zoom in on that, and we'll have a look where it's done, and it's looking pretty good. There's a few little parts that are missing, but overall not too bad. So what we'll do with this is we'll use the quick selection tool, making sure that on the options bar we click on the minus. Any selections there, I'm going to use the parenthesis keys to the left, or the square brackets to the left of the enter key, just to resize this brush. And I'm just going to click. It's very hard to get in that area, we'll leave that. I'm just doing the large areas, and we're not going to be too fussy if it misses a little bit, because we'll be going over it again shortly. But let's just get as much as we can using this tool. So now I'm going to swap over and click on the plus, because I can see that I'm just a little bit missing on the nails of the fingers. A little bit on this one. Just on the thumb there. I think we're looking okay on the rest. Okay, there's going to be a little bit there that we need to get rid of, but I'm not going to do it with this tool. We'll use a different one. A little bit there where the legs meet, so we'll make sure we click on minus, just drag onto that area, and that's looking okay. So at this stage what we'll do now is create a mask by clicking on the mask tool, bottom of the options bar there, and now we've got the mask. Let's just hide the bottom layer and see what we've got. Now that doesn't look bad at all, and it isn't too bad, but there's parts probably that we can't see that we need to get rid of, and to be able to see them we need a different coloured background. So I'm going to click on the background layer at the bottom there, which is hidden. I'm going to create a new layer, and I want a really contrasting colour to put onto this layer so we can see the areas that are selected and the areas that aren't. So I think probably something like red or green may be the best for that. So I'm going to click on the foreground colour, and I'm going to go for green, I think. Click on OK, and then I'm going to use the paint bucket tool and click, and I can see there's a little bit there on just between the strap and the body, little bits up here, but overall it's not too bad, not too bad at all. It's made quite a good selection. So let's just neaten this up now. So I'm going to click on the mask on the top layer, right click and go to select and mask. Now first of all, the view at the top, I'm going to change that to overlay, and what we can also do is change the colour and the opacity. Well, the colour's okay, I'll leave it on red, but I'm going to drag this up a little bit, so the opacity up a bit so I can see the areas like in between the fingers there. So what we do now is we click on this tool, which is the Refine Edge tool. We're going to make the brush larger. Now my brush has disappeared for some reason. Right, I'm going to press the shift key. So there's my brush, and take that off now. Let's just have a look. Resize on 1 pixel. Let's just drag this up. Okay, so we can see the size of the brush. So now it's quite large. I'm just going to drag outside this selection, just come into here, in between those fingers. Now I've got to be a little bit careful here because it is eating into the fingers a little bit, so we'll neaten this up a bit later. And just this little bit here on the hair there. So I'm just getting right on the edge of it and just clicking into the selection. And just overlapping very slightly. Okay, that's not looking too bad. A little bit there. I'm going to make the brush much smaller. Just come into that a little bit. And just around the hair here. So around the ball on the head. And that's looking okay. Now the most important thing now is where it's got output settings there. So we click there and it's got output to layer mask there at the moment. I'm going to change that to a new layer with a layer mask. Click on OK. And now you can see we've got a completely new layer. And that's not looking too bad. I think we've lost a little bit of the nail there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the mask and I'm just going to use a white paintbrush. And I'm just going to paint that nail in by hand. So we can use white to add, black to subtract. Just going to go over any weak areas. Hold down the space bar. So we've got a weak area here on the hand, so I'm just going to go over this. This is where it's using that tool that we used in Select and Mask. It's dug into the selection a little bit too much. So we can just go over it with the brush and just neaten that up. Now there's quite a lot here, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the mode of the brush to overlay, and that will just allow me to use a bigger brush and go quickly over that area. And using overlay will allow me to just, I've got to be a little bit careful because it's also bringing back a little bit of the background there. So I'll change that in a moment. So I'm keeping within the selection as much as possible, but it helps a little bit this. we've lost part of the finger there completely, and I don't think on this setting we'll get that back, so I'm going to change that to normal. So we've got quite a chunk of the finger missing there, so I need to use a normal brush and just paint that back in. There we go. I've just got a few areas there, so I'm going to change to black. So I'm doing a lot of this freehand to start with, and on this I may just change it back to overlay. Will help quite a bit, just to make sure that I've got black selected. I might have to go over it just a few times, but it will be a bit. It's not going to delete that part, so I'm going to change back to normal and try again. There we go. Let's change the size of the brush. Okay, that's looking better. Now we've lost the white on the nails there, so now we need to change to a white brush and just go over those white highlights. Use a slightly bigger brush. And I'm going to take the smoothing down to 0. That'll help a lot. Sometimes when you've got the smoothing on, it makes things difficult when you're using selections. You use that more for when you're painting things like air, like we've done in some of the lessons. It helps, but it certainly doesn't help when you've got this mode on. So now I'm just touching up. You see it's working much better now I've done that. Use a bigger brush. Just these weak areas. And any missing areas that we've got. I think the rest is probably okay. Yeah, you've got quite a good selection actually. And a little bit missing there, so bring that in. A bit weak here. That's the best way, just to touch up. You swap from overlay to normal just to get rid of that. In this case it's made quite a good selection, so I don't need anything fancy like we've used previously. Okay, so I'm going to double click this tool, the hand tool. And I'm pretty happy with that. I'm not really going to, even the hair doesn't look too bad. It looks a little bit too neat there, so we'll adjust that. So what I'm going to do with that now is I'm going to apply the mask. So I'm happy with the mask. Once I'm happy with it, I'm going to right click, apply the layer mask, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the smudge tool and take this right down to 1 pixel. Now sometimes that's hard to see the actual brush, so what I'm going to do is press the caps lock key, there we go, and that changes it to a cross, so it just makes it easier to see when we're working very small. So what I'm going to do with the smudge tool, set quite high, it's 80 on the strength, and I'm just going to use this to tease out some of this hair. I'm just drawing and dragging it out just so it looks more realistic. You may think I'm going over the top, but I like things to be perfect. So if it's too neat, I'll rough it up a little bit. and it just adds a little bit more realism. I might actually take that up 93, and we can add a little bit to these areas where it's looking a little bit rough, just to make sure you're within the air. You just drag it out and over any weak points, and it just makes it look really professional and neat. You can also draw over. I think that sometimes this is better for edges of selections because you don't need to change colours. You can simply just drag over the existing colour and just pull it out slightly. Oh, we're going to be careful I don't overdo that. That's just neaten this edge up a little bit. That's okay. Remember, we zoom straight in as well, so it's not really going to be too critical. You'll hardly see it when we're zoomed out again. Okay, so let's just have a look at that. So I'm quite happy with that now. So what I'm going to do is, on this layer, we've applied the mask. I'm going to click on the move tool and drag this onto my other image that I've already got open, and let go, and then resize it from the corner and position it on the image where I want it. Okay, so I want it around this area. I want it to be standing with that foot on there, but I want this leg to come down a little bit. Now I'm going to distort this image a little bit and make it slightly bigger. Bring it back a bit. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the mouse over this corner, but before I do that, I'm going to hold down the command key on the keyboard, and that will allow me to distort this image. So I've got to be a bit careful. I'm just going to drag this down and distort that foot just enough, and distorting it that much really doesn't affect it. I'm going to do that again with this foot. Bring that one up a little bit. This one down. You must make sure that you've got the command in Windows. I think it's Control. If it's not Control, it's Alt. So have a play and find out which one it is. But you will see the cursor change to that little pointer when you get the correct command. So if you just see, you'll get the mouse change to that. So just try. I think it's Control in Windows, but I'll let you test that out. Okay, so we've got that now how we want it, and I need to click the tick on the options bar to commit the change. Okay, so that's not looking too bad. What I'd probably say is, if we look at the shadows being cast towards the right there and to the rear, so there would be a slight shadow in this area. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do this very roughly because I don't think it's critical, but I'm just going to paint it freehand. There's different ways of doing shadows, but I'm going to paint it freehand. So I'm going to click below this layer, create a new layer, and just get a black brush, change this to black, get my brush tool, and I'm going to press the caps lock key, so we get back to the brush, make it larger, And I'm going to take the opacity, no, I'll leave the opacity up. And if we look at these shadows, they're fairly sharp, they're not diffused a lot. So what I'm going to do is just drag the hardness up slightly to about 20%. And now I'm just going to draw the shadow. So let's imagine if there was something there, there'd be a shadow coming across here, and there would be a bit there. Really the shadow's quite short, so we'll come down. I'm just clicking one at a time now to create this shadow. So it will be something like that, maybe the arm coming up a little bit, there'll be something there, maybe the head. It'll be a very short shadow like that. If you look at the other shadows, they're very short. So all I'm going to do with that is change that layer mode. Let's have a look. Overlay changes the colour too much, so I'm going to use soft light. I'm going to duplicate that layer, right click, duplicate the shadow, and then we'll take the opacity of this one down just a touch. I'm going to do this one at normal, so we'll change it back to normal and just do the bottom one, and then we can just alter this top one to make that shadow look a little bit better. In most cases I wouldn't do a shadow like that, but it's a very short shadow, you know, so it's hard to, if it was going the other way I would actually copy the shape of the body and draw the shadow to the shape of the body behind or in front, but as it's going this way and it's short, I think that's probably the best way, is just draw it freehand, just as we've done there. Okay, now I'm going to alter things a little bit now. So what I'm going to do is, to get the colour that I want over the female there, the gymnast, I want to copy the background. So I'm going to duplicate the background, right click, duplicate the layer, click on OK. I've done this in a previous exercise, so you probably know what I'm going to do. I'm going to drag that to the top, and I'm going to blur the hell out of this. So filter, blur, Gaussian blur, or Gaussian, and I'm going to create a big blur, really like that, so it's almost everything has gone out of the picture almost. Click on OK, and then change the mode to soft light. There we go, and if you look at that, it just throws the cast of the surrounding colours over the image and makes it look a little bit more realistic. Now, I did post an image of this, well, I've changed the colours a lot, but I think it's slightly better, more natural. But I will try and create a bit of an effect coming from the hands, throwing a bit of cloud across here. So to do that, I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to use a white brush, a smaller brush, and a very soft brush. Take the hardness all the way down, and I'm just going to draw some freehand shapes from my hands like this, and then I'm going to go to filter, same tool again, filter, Gaussian blur, just bring this down, click on OK, and I'm going to resize that slightly. Hold down the shift key, distort it. It's okay, it's not looking too bad. I could leave it on that. I might go to overlay now. Now we'll leave it on normal, I think, and just take the opacity down just a little bit, just to give a bit of effect to the image. Okay, so that's just about the center. There's the completed image. So I think just a little bit more arty. What we could do is flatten the image, and we'll just give it a bit more punch. So I'm going to duplicate the layer, and this is my way of creating contrast. So I'll go to filter, other, high pass, and we use a big radius there, so around 130, 140, something like that. Click on OK, and then we just change the layer mode to soft light, and that just gives it some punch. And if you don't think it's too much, you can bring it down, so you can change the opacity. I think it makes it quite graphic by having it quite high. So in this case I'm going to leave it at 100, flatten the image. I'm quite happy with that. It looks something a little bit different, so we'll save that. And remember, when you save it, you don't want to overwrite the original file, so you want to give it a new name, and then save it wherever you want. And there we go, completed image.